Hey everybody, Brandon and Cassie back again at the Kabuki Strength Lab. Today is a very special video for you because it is our final video in this facility. We are actually moving today. We have the entire facility basically destroyed and we are moving into a brand new gym. So kind of cool for us for this to be the last one that we'll have here. Today's video, we're talking about bench press arching, why you need to arch effectively, how you can improve it, and why not all arches are created equally. So let's set Cassie up on the bench. Cassie's going to be a pretty good example of this because she doesn't have a typical bendy back like many female pressers have. She's actually pretty stiff through the thoracic spine, and we're going to look at some of the before and after differences between what a spine that arches at the lumbar spine primarily versus what a spine looks like when it has more of a global arch. Go ahead and set up here, Cassie. Now, the thoracic spine, the manner in which those joints are oriented dictates that it's not going to be a huge amount of extension that you can create, but you should not be biased towards flexion. So we're not necessarily looking to match our lumbar extension because our thoracic spine is not designed that way, but we do need to create more uniformity and have more of a global arch. So instead of our arch looking like a big point kind of at the lumbar spine, we want it to be a more gradual transition through that thoracic spine. There's a few reasons for that. The main one is we're going to have better energy transfer from our legs. Leg drive is a real thing, and it only happens effectively if our spine is stiff and in a global arch position. The next reason that it's super important is because arching effectively sets up a good foundation for the scapulas to function. If you have a tight thoracic spine, your scapulas are not going to do their job in a bench press or even in a rowing pattern. You'll be much more likely to flare your elbows or have scapular elevation leading to dumping of the shoulder if your arch is not nice and uniform. So the thoracic spine really sets the foundation for the scapulas to actually work effectively. Go ahead and arch hard here, Cassie, the way you would if you didn't do any prep work, which you haven't yet. So what we can see is a bit of a peak happening right at the lumbar spine. Now, Cassie's going to feel super tight in this position, but it's not going to be the best position to press from, and she's probably going to get stuck with poor bar patterns because as she's pressing, if you flare, you're going to end up turning into this kind of vertical press, and that's not going to be the strongest press for you. So the drill that we almost always go to for this is a drill that uses a band as well as the AccuMobility Ultimate Back Roller. Go ahead and come down here, Cassie. What we're going to try and do here, guys, is show you a real life progression from kind of stiff, tight upper back musculature to a more uniform global extension. We're not chasing extremes of an arch, but we are going to try to get more out of that thoracic spine. I don't need you to look like almost a C when you're arching, but we need to have more of a transition from lumbar to thoracic. And we have a pretty heavy band here. I don't know how many pounds that is, but it's pretty heavy. Cassie is also a small person, so you need to go pretty heavy on your band here. The band's going to act as an anchor point for your thoracic spine to move from. She's going to keep hips on the ground the entire time, and now she's going to pull with the band and press her sternum to the ceiling as hard as possible. In this position, she's trying to avoid any extension from the lumbar spine, and she's going to hold this as hard as possible for about an 8 count. The best method to use with this is a contract, relax, and we're going to go through a couple phases of this here, Cassie. We generally go about half the time in the relax than we do in the contract, but we don't want to go for a marathon here. This should not be a 15-second hold. It should be a very intense 5 to 8 count hold. Let's go one more there, Cassie, and really push sternum to ceiling as hard as possible. We're cueing her to press upwards from the sternum, not arch around the roller, though you could think of that. We find that it's most useful to think of pressing up towards the ceiling. Good. If you feel good there, Cassie, let's get you back on the bench and really try and get a bit more of a uniform arch happening from that thoracic spine. We'll let her sit up here, guys. See if you notice any kind of difference. It's going to be somewhat subtle. Again, Cassie is a small human, but we should have more of a even extension through that thoracic spine. Other cueing that we can use is tell her not to touch my finger in that upper back. So if I put my hand under or kind of between her scapulas, I just kind of tap her scapula, say, don't touch me, don't touch me. That tends to bias people a bit more into that extension as well. Again, we're not looking for a huge arch, and we're not even looking for you to maximize your arch from a competitive standpoint. We just want a global arch to be formed so that you have better tension, better leg drive, and a better foundation to actually press from and function with your scapulas.